Twice a week, the Golflander arrives in Croydon, bringing a fresh batch of tourists from Normanton. Croydon is a 6.5-hour drive from Cairns. It is a gradual slope down from the Atherton tableland, often on narrow stretches of highway, stopping for hulking road trains approaching. Reaching Croydon does feel like stepping into constant contrasts between 100-year-old buildings and curious replicas, to modern four-wheel drives and beaten-up Toyotas. There is a clear masculine feel to the town. Of a night, the Heritage Precinct is alight. The combination of floodlighting and recreated street lamps, once made in the local foundry, provide a pleasant evening stroll. The hard rock gold mining story of Croydon is ever present, and the poisonous tailing ponds are a lasting reminder. The town's only pub, where once there were reported to be 34, is the centre of all things, and the sunsets are to die for. The State Heritage listed Chinese temple and settlement site is indicative of a sizable and active local Chinese population. The temple opened in 1904, replacing an earlier one, apparently demolished by termites. Archival research included certificates of exemption from dictation. Certificates were applied for to avoid the testing process on returning from a visit home to China. The tests were designed to keep non-Europeans out of Australia. World War I alien registration certificates and the 1913 coloured labour registers were good sources also. The Croydon Market Lease Register was key and was transcribed. It shows the geographical extent of the leases. The Croydon Cemetery gives further clues. The other section of Croydon Cemetery caters for those not Catholic nor Protestant. In Croydon that was mainly Chinese. The number of graves suggests a once substantial Chinese presence. The census data show around 300 Chinese people in the area at any given time, from the late 1880s until numbers rapidly dwindled from 1901 onwards with the White Australia policy. Golden Gate former township lies 5 kilometres north of Croydon along Normanton Road and the railway line. It was one of several satellite towns of Croydon formed around gold mines. Remnants of Golden Gate Township are on the State Heritage Register, and there were Chinese market gardens here. Our focus, though, is the gardens in and around the Golden Gate cattle station. Not far off the main road sits Golden Gate Station. According to the lease register, this area appears to be the most populous in terms of Chinese gardens. The Chinese gardeners worked hard in and around Croydon, and it is a landscape of many contrasts. Dry creek beds almost defy the presence of occasional lush waterholes. The map shows Golden Gate Cattle Station Homestead at the bottom, marked yellow. The main creeks for Chinese gardeners here were Rising Sun, Tabletop and Karen River. Crossings are indicated in blue. Former townships are marked with brown houses. The townships formed around gold mines. Tabletop was significant. Its cemetery is state listed. There is not much to see now, but as the structure shows, the gold miners have returned. We also drove through the area of Jubilee Township.
All that's left now is a well and a few cows.
The creek crossings give a good indication of the variety in water supply. We were there a month after wide-ranging flooding rains, but there are many dry creek beds now. The Chinese gardeners struggled with few permanent water sources. Northeast from the former township are the remnants of the Tabletop Station Chinese Garden. Tabletop, as the name suggests, is a plateau, woven with creeks, mostly dry. A small grove of custard apples was a first indication of the former Chinese garden. The trees were amid a level band of land along the Tabletop Creek bank. There was plenty of water there. A striated heron watched for movement. A few metres from the trees was a Chinese tub. There are meant to be 4 tubs in this garden area, suggesting a significant size. A document about nearby Station Creek Chinese gardens described deep pits containing water into which they put lots of old shin bones and other discarded meat to rot. They had a ramp down to the water and they carried watering cans on bamboo poles down to the pits. The water was used as fertiliser. Not far south along the creek from Tabletop Station are the remnants of Charlie's garden. One indicator of Chinese gardens can be the multi-trunked Chinese apple tree. The tree has become a restricted invasive plant, so there are many dotted around. Charlie's spot on the bend of the creek looked idyllic, especially in the setting sun. The garden furthest north was Gilded Rose on Curran River. The wattles were blooming. We stopped on the high side of the river, where often the dwellings were, away from the pungent odours of the meaty fertiliser pits. There were remains of a fire pit there. The river bank was lush and alive. It seemed like a place of plenty. The most southerly garden we visited was R. Sam's. The area was rich in detail. We visited there twice. It was nearby a lagoon with white-necked heron. The windmill and tank, later additions, marked the spot. There would have possibly been a windlass at the well, as per this reconstruction from Atherton Temple. On our second visit there, one of the tubs was located. The shape was more rectangular than the tub at Tabletop. It may have been deeper too. The measured depth was 0.82 metres. It was suggested that in total there were 3 tubs in this garden. However, we only could locate one. This garden, however, does correlate with the lease register. It indicates the lease was held by R. Howe from 1887 to 1893, after which it was abandoned and given to R. Sam. R. Sam held it from 1897 to 1900. A short distance from the windmill were house remains. Roof nails were found and broken glass. A hoe was also found, buried in a termite mound. This was freed. The day ended with a spectacular sunset as we got back to the homestead. We visited former Chinese gardens at Corktree Creek and Gorge Creek with Cedric Hughes, a Chinese descendant. Corktree Creek is a short distance east of Croydon. It was the first step on our morning with Cedric. Several Chinese apple trees are on the site. We stopped to sample the fruit and checked out the dried red date form of the fruit. The last time Cedric was here at the site was as a teenager. He recalls Chinese tubs being in the garden area. We spent some time on foot looking, but we did not find any. We did, however, find a tank and wagon remains.
Pinches. I see him use these for pulling the shoes off horses, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Put under the shoe and lever it off. Here's an old shoeing rasp. Turn around this way, you might be able to get a good photo of that too.
The Axel Red 1.5 Thomas Gibson Cape Works. Nearby were house remains with some scattered cooking utensils. This garden is on a broad bend of the creek, completely dry. Croydon Mining News 1908 mentions a garden at Qld Creek with over 100 fruit trees, oranges, mandarins, mangoes. The garden was visited by large crowds from Croydon on a Sunday afternoon. This may be it, with its easy access to Old Croydon Road. It was held by Tommy Onion, or Tommy R. Nyan, but there is no mention of him in the lease register or this site. We travelled through the Allevale property to reach the remains of the Hughes family home. His parents were Arthur and Dorothy Hughes, and this was Cedric's home growing up. It was a bumpy old track, but not too bad under the power lines. Cedric had shown me an image of his house on this last visit, lovely 2-storey place. Cedric's grandfather was R. Tai, a local market gardener. At the site, we sat and yarned and had a picnic lunch, then explored it. Afterwards, we looked for R. Tai's house, but there was too much underbrush. According to Cedric, R. Tai grew citrus trees. There was no permanent water, evident by the state of the creeks we crossed. R. Tai used to cart water from the White Star mine, a fair hike. No citrus trees remain now due to the bushfires. He also grew sweet potatoes. Cedric said R. Tai planted the fruit trees on the best side of the creek, where there was soft soil. His house was on the other side, where the soil was not so good. The stumps of the house are still there. It wasn't very big though, a one-room hut. R. Tai returned to China to die. He travelled with Bing Chu. We have no photo of R. Tai, but he leaves behind descendants, as well as a revealing story, adding to the rich texture of the Chinese market gardens of Croydon. This final map shows the mapping of the garden sites visited, as well as those listed on the lease register. Often the register locations were vague, but the creeks were identified. We hope that more can be revealed over time about the contributions of these stoic individuals from China. There is so much more to be told.